All right, y'all, we're taking a look at this boudoir photography business today. Gonna see if it has BSS for its one main Google search, local and city search combined of Tulia, Texas. All right, so we're in the GBC universe, taking declining boudoir photographers to the number one boudoir photographer in their city. And our North Star, as always, is FSIC, full spectrum intent capture. And FSIC explains why all boudoir photographers either rise or fall. So we're rising, that means we're attracting, we're bringing in people across the entire intent ladder, high intent to low intent. If we're falling, we're missing peeps somewhere along the intent ladder. We're not successfully bringing them in, or even making them aware we exist. So, BSS, focusing here on this, this profile, this brand, focusing on the highest intent buyers, searching right now for boudoir photo shoots right in their city, social search, and Google search. Then our other brand, Boudoir FB Ad Doctor, focusing on BLCS. Right now, we're only working with boudoir photographers spending more than 10 grand a month in boudoir Facebook ads. And that's actually going to be the lowest intent people, in any location, but it's going to have the highest number of them. All right, so BSS is boudoir search sameness. That is when a boudoir photographer has either 0 or 1 slots on page 1 of Google. And as a result, if we got 0 slots, we're basically dead, kind of dead in the water for on page 2 or deeper. And that's because we already know that approximately 80% of Google searches are page 1 only Google searches. So they never even go to page 2. So we care about this 80% cohort. This is the bulk of the market. So if we're in 0 slots on page 1, we're invisible to them because they ain't clicking any page deeper at all. Now, if we got 1 slot on page 1, it's also as boudoir search sameness because we're looking the same as every other boudoir photographer. Everyone else on page 1's got most likely 1 link. So anyone going down the Google search, they're clicking us, they're clicking first link, second link, third link, all 10 links, opening up everyone, contacting everyone, getting a quote from everyone, price shopping everyone. And so boudoir search sameness, not good for us. Now, 0 or 1 slots on page 1 of Google is actually not normal, extremely common, but to have that few number of slots page 1 of Google is not normal. It's actually the symptom of 2 deeper root causes. Those 2 deeper root causes are 1, which many people know about, which is market saturation, and 2, which basically nobody knows about, is the false belief of page 1 equality. So market saturation, it's when someone gets a new iPhone, all of a sudden they're throwing up, Google My Business profile, Google My Business profile, basically increasing and throwing up their website, competing more for page 1 dominance. Or they get a new camera, then they start posting them on Facebook groups. So basically, they're increasing the supply of boudoir photographers where the number of buyers in the market remains fixed, which means it's making it harder for every current boudoir photographer to get clients. A big tsunami when that happened was when we had COVID. So when we had COVID, massive, when people lost their jobs, they still need to earn an income. So a lot of them came out as boudoir photographers, saturating the market, making it harder for all the current sellers. Now, the second deeper root cause is the false belief of page 1 equality. This is what I've seen is the number 1 killer of boudoir photography businesses. It's basically kind of this false belief is assuming that every boudoir photographer gets either 0 or 1 slots on page 1 of Google. And, as a result, we, if you got 1 slot, okay, got 1 slot on page 1 and get some more market saturation. All right, we're pushed down onto, basically we're pushed on to, page 2, but that's fine because every boudoir photographer gets either 0 or 1 slots on page 1. So I guess it's not my time anymore. Hopefully they, they shut down their website. So maybe I got a chance to go back on page 1. But no, that is 100% incorrect. Google actually wants to give as many page 1 slots to the boudoir photographer that wants as many as they'll put in the effort to acquire. And I know that because I went from 0 out of 10 slots on page 1 on Google to 9 out of 10 slots on page 1 on Google in only 10 days. And so I know for a fact Google will give the slots to those who truly want them. Now, boudoir photographer with BSS, boudoir search sameness, is a disappearing boudoir photographer. Because yeah, dude, basically we're either got 0 slots on page 1, so on page 2 or deeper. And again, approximately 80% of searchers. The bulk of the market ain't never going to see us because they're page 1 only. And then for 1 slot on page 1, we don't stand out. We're not different. We're being price shopped against everyone who also has, 1 slot on page 1. So what's the solution? We got the solution. BSS tree with social search saturation, SQ'd methodology. We know this is a solution because we invented it. Again, this is what I used to go from 0 out of 10 slots on page 1 to 9 out of 10 slots on page 1 in 10 days, Google page 1 search. And this is actually the only solution I've seen that can successfully fight back against market saturation. Basically, we saturate social search with the highest intent keywords, so we show up there. And once we saturate there, the outcome is actually that flows into those results actually flow onto Google page 1 or Google. And if we get enough signals, obviously that puts us at higher chance Google puts us at Google page 1. So the SQ'd methodology, to use it, we have to accept page 1 equality as a false belief, which kind of breaks that brain barrier to, okay, what's the solution we can use? SQ'd methodology. And it's the only thing that I've seen that actually can successfully fight back against market saturation for boudoir photographers, because imagine we're in San Jose, California. It's a million boudoir photographers. Everyone's got a website. We're one of the boudoir photographers. Everyone's trying to be ranked page 1 Google, but we employ SQ'd methodology to the max, where we're taking up the first 300 slots for social search on all the platforms for our highest intent buyer keywords, which then flows onto Google. And let's say we're the first 300 slots on Google for our highest intent keywords as well. Well, that means literally the first 30 pages is filled up with only us on Google organic search. And so when we have that, buyers got to go to page 31 to essentially find any other competitors, and no one's going to page 31. So buyers can essentially only find us. So even if there's max a ton of boudoir photographers, market gets more and more saturated, we stay dominating page 1, which is actually where the bulk of searches stop. 80% of them, approximately 80% of them. So whose business is growing? Our business is growing. Whose business is disappearing? Everyone else. Even though the market's super saturated. Now, once you're with SQ'd methodology, we have page 1 visibility. Page 1 visibility is getting at least 2 out of 10 slots on page 1, where we're actually looking different. We do have a GBC recommended minimum of 3 out of 10 though, 3 slots out of 10 slots. And once we actually achieve that, we get an extra bonus, which is for every new slot we take up on page 1, we're actually kicking competing boudoir photographers off page 1, effectively making them invisible. So this is kind of an extra bonus of ranking on page 1, is we're actually kicking a competitor off page 1, and we already know approximately 80% of searchers never even go to page 2. So we effectively make our competitors invisible. But we do want to hit the GBC minimum of at least 3 out of 10. Now, page 1 visibility activates boudoir search visibility for us. So we don't have 0 out of 1. 0 slots on page 1. We don't have 1 slot on page 1. We do not have 2 slots on page 1. Well, 2 slots on page 1 means we don't have BSS, but that means we have not hit the GBC minimum of 3 out of 10 slots on page 1. And we want to hit that because we actually if we got 3 out of 10 on page 1, one, we're kicking 2 competitors off, or maybe even 3. Also, we're going to look way more visible than simply having the people with 1 link. And very rarely will there be someone else with two links, but we'll look even better than them as well. And a boudoir photographer with BSV is a visible boudoir photographer. So we got to get visible. So this is our universe here. We got disappearing boudoir photographer with boudoir search sameness is caused by kind of the dual horns of market saturation and page 1 equality, the false belief of page 1 equality. And we achieve, or we utilize S-cube methodology. That's our solution. We achieve page 1 visibility, become a visible boudoir photographer with boudoir search visibility. So my results using this is my own S-cubed methodology for myself. I wanted to rank for the keyword BLCS boudoir. So came in here, gonna look at the organic, and got organic slot 1, Instagram, slot 2, slot 3, slot 4, slot 5, slot 6, slot 7, slot 8, and slot 10. But we got 9 out of 10 slots on Google here, simply from utilizing our S-cubed methodology. And this went from 0 out of 10 to 9 out of 10 in 10 days. Now the main event here, we're gonna look at this boudoir photography business and check out, see if they got BSS for their local and their city search. Actually, they're in one. This time, Tulia, Texas. I think it's in between Dallas and Amarillo, Texas, but they call it Amarillo. So let's check here. So here we go. Let's go roll to the organic slot. So here's what we got. We got slot 1. We got slot 2. Boom. Slot 3. Boom. Slot 4. Slot 5. Slot 6. Slot 7. And all right, dude, we got 7 out of 10. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. We say page 1 dominance starts at 8 out of 10, so almost 8 out of 10 slots here. But dude, imagine, dude, they just kicked off 6 or 7 other competing with the photographers to be price shopped against for the 80% of searches on Google. Fantastic. This is what we want. This is what we want. Tulia, Texas. And yeah, we don't have it's local city search combined. So boom, perfect. This boudoir photography business does not have BSS, boudoir search sameness, for their local/city Google search, and they also have exceeded the GBC recommended minimum of 3 out of 10 slots Google page 1 organic search. So fantastic, fantastic. This is what we all wanna get to. So if you're a boudoir photographer, disappearing boudoir photographer, you've got boudoir search sameness. You're seeing market saturation coming up. It's going to become more and more saturated. You know that page 1 equality is a false belief. You kind of didn't think about it before, but now you're like, yeah, dude. Why is everyone, why is no one trying to take more slots page 1? And you're seeing with the AI, way AI is going, there's going to be taking more people's jobs, pushing more people to become boudoir photographers on top of when they get a new iPhone, they're a new boudoir photographer, or if they get a new camera, they're a new boudoir photographer. And so you're seeing the last time a lot of people lost their jobs was COVID, and a whole deluge of boudoir photographers came into the market. So you're saying, all right, that's probably going to happen again, and you want to get prepared. And you're seeing that there's also back-end benefits of this S-cubed methodology that we haven't talked about yet, but you're seeing, hey, this S-cubed methodology, you want to use this, you want to keep rolling with it, because it can fight back against market saturation faster than any other solution. The only other thing would be, building a brand, but that takes years. And you realize, and the other things on the back end of this is, if you got all these kind of bundles of keywords under your business, your brand that you're ranking for, that's a higher chance you show up in the AI search overview, when you rank for all these keywords using the SQ'd methodology, and higher chance you rank for AI search as a backend benefit. You know, ChatGPT search, whatever, Claude search, Perplexity search, Microsoft Copilot search, Google Gemini search, because they look for kind of bundles of keywords around a business, themes, thematic columns. And so you're like, man, I was able to get page one on Google and page one on all these search, social search, and kind of get the back end benefits of higher probability of AI over me being the only one AI overview or being included in AI search. Where the last time I used AI search to search for a boudoir photographer in a city, it gave me 3. Those are ChatGPT. It gave me 3. So higher chance you become one of the 3 by having all these the highest intent keywords focused, kind of thematically bundled as like pillars underneath your brand name. And you're also noticing that if some other boudoir photographer goes first to start using this in your area, then, well, you can't work with me anymore. So you'd have to figure it all out yourself and then equal them in work to maintain so they don't take over page one, or, most likely need to double them in work to actually make progress at getting more slots on page one that they were taking. So if you decide, okay, it's better to just be the first goer and solidify your position, get the highest chance of basically being market saturation proof, busting that false belief of page one inequality, then shoot me a DM when my DM's open. My DMs are closed right now. New patient intake at the hospital is currently closed. But when we do open up for a new patient intake, shoot me a DM, we'll see if you qualify, and I'll have some questions for you.